Hello! Hello! I'm excited, so I decided I would just go live. Hello! How are you guys? Oh my god, it's been so long! How have you been? Don't worry if you don't hear any background noise. There is none. Normally, I kind of rely on whatever game I'm playing to provide the background music. And then the rare cases I'm not like playing a game, I forget that I don't in fact have music. But hello! Who's the streamer? Are they new? I haven't seen any streams from them over the last week. No, no, I'm not new. I've been here, really, I swear. She doesn't even go here. No, I had a very nice, relaxing vacation, other than the airport part, because that part always sucks. But that's just part of the travel that we have to live with, unfortunately. Especially when you want to travel to Japan from freaking Florida. Such a long flight. Oh my gosh. Oh, that part was hectic, but the rest of it was so much fun. Oh my gosh, I had such a good time. I am glad to be back with my sweet, sweet little kittettes, though. Oh, it's been good. It's been good. And today, oh, we're gonna talk with author Aiden Thomas. I'm so excited. So this is Aiden Thomas is one of my personal favorite authors. I just think everything they write is freaking amazing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm gonna give a few minutes for everyone to hop on. Hello! Oh my gosh, it's so relieving to like come back and see that people are still here. I know that sounds silly, but oh, hold on, let me move things around a little bit. Okay, okay, this is here now. Okay, good. Oh, the Cadettes have been super sweet and affectionate since I came back, which has been adorable. No, there's no workouts. How am I meant to do over my jump scare now? There will be workouts later, but since we're starting with the author interview, I don't really want people redeeming those like as I'm like interviewing our guest. So I have them turned off for now. All the redeems will come back on at the end of stream, at the end of the interview segment of our stream. Actually, let me make sure I have the sound redeems off also, real quick. Because that would also be very bad if they're just in the middle of talking and then 2,000 years later. I would be so mortified. Okay, it should be off. Hazel! Hello! It is so good to see everyone. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, it feels unreal how long it's been. Also, I'm gonna go ahead and pin that. So you can check out our guest authors' books at their website. They have quite a few out. Uh, and tonight I'm gonna try and focus the conversation on their recent duology because the second book is coming out in like a week. So good time to get into that. I turn off the sound redeem. Yeah. I did so the way that the sound redeems are set up, I have to have like a custom like source for them. So on the scene that I have for our interview segment, I don't actually have like the sound redeem source. So I don't think they would come through anyway, but I don't want anyone to like try and then like lose their points. Twitch really giving me 2 whole minutes of ads so I can't hear Crow. Oh no, overmind. Ah! Thank you for the posture check. Also, we have the custom alerts. Oh my gosh, aren't they adorable? So there are 6 custom alerts. There are 6 new custom alerts. We will discover what they are over time. The alerts are also off for the talk story to me scene, so you will not be able to see them. So if you want to like activate any of the alerts, you will have to like wait. because I'm probably gonna go ahead. Okay, yeah, Aiden is in the waiting room, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. But yeah, there will be more redeems. Not redeems. There will be more alerts to see. Okay. Yeah. Oh wait, actually, hold on. Let me switch over here real quick. Make sure my camera is not turned on. Oh, hello, hello. Oh. Oh, hello, hello. Oh wait, hold on. I have to get your thing up on.
Okay.
One moment. It's been a hot minute, so I forget how this works. Okay. Okay.
No worries. I totally get it.
All right, you're on. Everyone
Awesome.
say hello to our guest author, Aiden Thomas.
Hello.
Imagine there is applause. It's a little hard because everyone's like text chatting. But imagine that there is a raucous round of applause because that is absolutely what would be happening. Just
Perfect.
trust. But I'll go ahead and give you a very short introduction of you, and then I would love it if you could like talk about yourself and introduce yourself.
Yeah,
So yeah, sorry, I feel like the timing on video camera is so hard.
it's impossible.
It's so awkward. Like I remember during like the Zoom days during like COVID,
Oh my
it
God,
it
yeah.
was so hard. I felt like I was constantly interrupting people during meetings, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was a big learning curve and it's like impossible to like deal with the lag. You're just like
I
stumbling over yourself.
I know. But yeah, once again, today our guest author is Aiden Thomas, the author of many, many books, actually. Cemetery Boys, Lost in the Neverwood, Sunbearer Trials, and coming out soon, Celestial Monsters. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, would you like to talk about yourself, tell us about your background, and kind of give us a rough overview of your publishing journey?
Yeah, so I'm Aiden. I am a trans Mexican American young adult author. I mostly do fantasy, but I've sold on proposal a contemporary romance and a sci-fi book. So I think I'm just kind of all over the place. I just love telling
Is
stories.
is that the Titanic in space? Because
Yeah, Gay Titanic in Space. I'm really
yes.
excited for
Oh my god.
that
I
one.
want it. I want it so bad.
Yeah, so I love writing queer fantasy, but also just kind of queer stories in general. My latest project is the Sunbearer duology, and gosh, Celestial Monsters is coming out in like 10 days or something wild. I can't even believe it. I feel like I've been working on this book for forever, and finally it'll
Oh.
be y'all's problem and not my problem anymore.
it it better have a happy ending. What? Why would you say it like that?
I know, yeah.
Hold up now. Hold up.
Don't worry about it. It'll be totally fine.
Well, now I am worried.
It'll be a romp, I promise. Yeah, my first book that came out was Cemetery Boys, and that was actually the first book about a trans character written by a trans person to ever hit the New York Times bestseller list, which is really, really cool. But now I think we've had 4 or 5 books by trans authors hit the New York Times bestseller list, something wild like that, which is really
I
cool
love
and
that.
exciting.
I love seeing that growth.
Yeah,
I was so sad and disappointed that Felix Ever After didn't make the New York Times bestseller list. Like how? It was so good.
Aiden,
How?
I literally every time I bring this up, I that's what I say that Felix Ever After should have been the first one to hit because it was oh my god, I love that book by
It's
Kinsey
so
Calendar.
good.
It's
Not
so good.
which is not I'm sorry, I'm also realizing not to discount like your achievement because it's absolutely
No, no.
amazing. But
Yeah, but still, oh my god, it totally should have been Kaysen. I think
oh,
anyways, I can get on a whole rant about that. But yeah, my first publisher was Spoon Reads, which me and Caitlin were both in, and that's how we met and have been like long distance friends ever since.
yeah, we like meet up like every so often. Uh,
Yeah, it's a little bit harder during the pandemic, but we still make
yeah.
it happen.
Well, living on opposite sides of the country doesn't super
Yeah.
help, but
Yeah, it's not great.
but but yeah. So how God, how busy have you been like with getting ready for Celestial Monsters coming out?
Really busy. It's very funny because like all this morning I've been doing nothing but like making TikToks. So like, so, like while you were texting me, I was like, yeah, still like on my phone and like editing videos. I got like I've saved like a whole bunch of them to my drafts so that when I'm actually like on tour, it'll be easier to just kind of send them off as I'm walking around and meeting everybody. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's been hectic for sure. I am already pre-exhausted for the tour, but the tour's the best part of this whole job. So it's like I spend 2.5 to 2 years on a book, and then the actual payoff is getting to go on tour and meet readers. So I'm exhausted, don't get me wrong, but I'm also just
Hmm.
really excited.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been like just slammed, and it's good that you're like prepping some of the work in
Yes,
advance, because hopefully that'll like take less pressure off of you, like when you're actually on tour, and you can like fully enjoy it, like while it's happening, and you don't have to think about all these
exactly.
things.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
trying to do a lot of the heavy lifting beforehand, so I could kind of just be on autopilot.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So, which book would you like to talk about first? I feel like there are so many we could talk about, and
Oh, I don't know.
we're gonna talk about them. But I wondered if you had a preference or if you just want to go in like chronological order.
Maybe chronological order. That seems like it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a very interesting situation with. So Lost in the Neverwoods was originally the book you sold to Swoon Reads, but
Yeah.
Cemetery Boys ended up coming out first.
Yeah.
So.
So that happened. Yeah, that's very funny, right? Like Lost in the Neverwoods, it's my I like to it's a very dark, I would say, reimagining of Peter Pan, but what it is, it's asking the question of what happens to Wendy after Neverland. And the whole premise of the book is that when Wendy lives in a coastal small town in Oregon that I live like an hour and a half away from, called Astoria. And when she and her brothers, John and Michael, were younger, they went missing in the woods behind their house. And then 6 months later, Wendy was found, but her brothers were never found. And the actual story picks up, like we get dropped in on Wendy's 18th birthday, and kids are starting to go missing in this small town again, and people are wondering if Wendy has something to do with it or if it has something to do with her brothers. So she's getting a lot of stares and a lot of looks, and she is super uncomfortable and kind of just wants to be left alone and off to college. But as she's driving home, she almost runs over a boy who seemingly just fell out of the sky. And he claims to be Peter Pan, a character that was in stories that she used to tell her brothers when they were all little. And he claims that he knows where her brothers are, how to get them back, and how to get all the other missing children back if only she can help him find his shadow.
Ooh. So knowing where the story goes, but without saying any spoilers for anyone in chat, what made you decide to kind of make this a darker retelling of the original story? What was kind of the inspiration for that?
Yeah, so I've always loved Peter Pan ever since I was a little kid. Like the Disney movie was, oh my god, just like I think I melted that VHS from how many times I watched it and rewound it. But when I went to college, I double majored in psychology and English creative writing. And I took a class that was called the Psychoanalytic Critique of Literature. So it was kind of joining my two majors together. And basically, what we did was we picked a book that we would like basically psychoanalyze the characters in. And I decided to read Peter Pan because I had never actually read the original story. And I read it and I was like, oh my God, this is way darker than anybody has ever led me to believe. Like,
Yeah, because I've
it's
never read the original. I didn't realize that.
it's super dark. There's a lot of death, and it's kind of depressing too. There's this moment at the end of the book where Peter comes back to visit Wendy, but she's like older now, and Wendy is talking to Peter, and she's like, well, where have you been? Like, where's Tinkerbell? And, and he's like, oh, I don't know. If pixies have, die quickly. So he's like, she must be not be around anymore. And
Oh!
then I know. And then Wendy goes, well, don't you remember like Captain Hook? And Peter says, I I forget them after I've killed them. And that was so freaking wild. So
Oh
my
my
paper was basically
gosh.
about how traumatized Peter is and how he has selective amnesia because of it. So trauma has led his brain to forget parts in order to protect him, right? So yeah, I wrote that paper and then I was like, this could be something. And so I started
Yeah.
yeah, I always had that idea in my head, and then, when I was in grad school, I finally decided to, like, write the book, and, the first draft became my thesis for my MFA in creative writing. Yeah.
That's so cool hearing that evolution because I never
Yeah,
knew that that's how it started. Oh my god.
yeah.
I didn't know that the original Peter Pan was so freaking dark. Holy crap.
It's super messed up. You should totally read it. It's very interesting.
I'm very intrigued now. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So you were talking about how like the psychology of Peter Pan. Why did you decide to make Wendy the main character in your book?
So, another great question. I was really so from like my literature and psychoanalysis perspective, I really wanted an outside look at Peter because I
Mm.
feel like he was telling the story. I wasn't really going to be able to talk about all the things I wanted to talk about. And within Lost in the Neverwoods, even though it was Peter who was really messed up in the story, I really wanted to unpack what it would be like for Wendy to go through this really traumatic event and then to not be able to remember what happened. So it's really about Wendy healing, remembering what happened, and kind of processing and coming out on the other side. So it's definitely just like a big trauma PTSD book, but it's also very magical and it's also very sweet. And there's obviously a romance between Peter and Wendy, so there's definitely levity, but there's a lot of internal work we're doing in that story.
Yeah, which makes sense, like given the context.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then, in many ways, I feel like the tone of Cemetery Boys was almost like not quite the opposite, but much lighter.
Yeah, it's funny because I would argue that Cemetery Boys talks about death a lot more, but it's like
And yet, it's so like whenever I think about it, like fun is the word that comes
right,
to
and yet
mind.
it's still like a really fun like a romp. I like to call that one my ghost story turned rom-com.
that
But
that none of us knew
Cemetery
we needed, but we all did.
exactly. And yeah, it's interesting because in the Cemetery Boys, so I'm Mexican, my family's Mexican, and the way that we interact with death is very different than like, like other cultures, I guess. Like we have Dia de Muertos where we celebrate the memories of our past loved ones and we welcome their spirits back for 2 days. And um, for us, like death isn't the end all. Like for us, there's more to us that will happen beyond, our current lives. And yeah, so it's like while we still are really sad and like mourn our dead, it's also very important us to celebrate and like have fun remembering our loved ones. And so I think that that's just kind of the whole attitude of that book. It's like, yes, we're going to talk about heavy things, but we're also going to be very joyful about it. And so we're going to have like, these kind of silly goofs and gags kind of taking us through the story.
I love that. Like I love like looking at death as more of a celebration of life. Like I think that's
Okay.
And like what a fun like well not fun, but like what a good atmosphere to like set this story during
Yeah,
especially as the main character is kind of coming into himself and like trying to find his place within his family and kind of prove himself to everyone. So I feel it felt very like fitting in a way. Uh,
yeah.
so what I guess was the inspiration for Cemetery Boys? You said that for oh sorry, I was trying to
No,
I was just trying to explain my train of thought. So there was such like an interesting beginning story of Lost in the Neverwoods. I was curious if there was something similar for Cemetery Boys, or if you were just
I
like, yeah.
I'm not sure it's quite as interesting as it was random. I was so like back in the day when Tumblr was a bit more popular. Um, I used to follow a bunch of writing prompt blogs. So like, that would be like, here's a situation and like, oh, you could like, now what story would you write for this? Sometimes it was just all dialogue. And I remember, God, it was probably like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was laying in my bed scrolling in the deep on Tumblr,
As you
and
do, as you do.
as I do, yeah, and it probably at that point dropped my phone on my face at least twice. And I saw this prompt, and it was just one sentence, and it said, "What would you do if you summoned a ghost and you couldn't get rid of it?" And a lot of people were replying or reposting with like these really creepy stories and like paranormal activity type things. But I read it and I was like, yes, okay. What would I do if I summoned a ghost and I couldn't get rid of it? And what if he was really cute? And that was the launching off point, honestly. And from there I was like, okay, ghosts. And you know what? I love Casper. I love a ghost love interest. Like,
And what an amazing ghost Julian made.
I
What
know,
fun. I
and
think
then
oh sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
no, you're good. And then like after that, it was like, well, if I'm gonna do ghosts, then I want to do Dia de Muertos because then I really just get to kind of show off my culture. And I also kind of cheated because in fantasy you have to create a magic system, and in Cemetery Boys, it's like the magic system in quotes is truly just like my cultural beliefs and practices and rituals given a very literal output. So like, so people are like, oh my god, how did you come up with this? I was like, it already exists.
That's so fun though, because I feel like then you can like lean into like the cool like cultural aspects, and like culture played such a huge role in Cemetery Boys, and like, oh, one of the things I super loved about it, there were many things, but like were like the nitty gritty like world details. Like it was so like specific and like so easy to imagine because you just went so in depth. So I feel like that just almost lent itself like even better to like the magic system you set up because it
Yeah,
was so ingrained. Oh,
absolutely. And it takes place in East LA, which is where I spent a lot of my childhood, growing up, living in born and raised in California. So it was the easiest book I've ever written. Like it just kind of flowed out of me. It was very natural.
oh, and I loved the romance. Something I do want to ask you about is so the banter between all of the characters was just so good, so funny. Like there were so many moments like I actually laughed out loud. How do you write humor so well? Like how do you do it? Do you have any tips or tricks?
I feel like I just have a really ridiculous sense of humor. It's funny because like my friends will read my books and they'll be like, "Oh my god, I can literally hear you making these jokes in your own voice," and then like laughing at it. So it's like, it was actually really nice because I think sometimes fantasy novels can be kind of very fraught and very serious, but
Mm.
to be able to kind of make this fantasy book where my love interest character isn't like the black haired light skinned blue eyed boy who has like a tortured background. um, Instead it's just this like loser kid from East LA who like is just riddled with ADHD and like cracks bad jokes all the time. It was very natural for me because I feel like, yeah, it's funny because I feel like when people read Cemetery Boys, they look at Yadriel and they're like, oh, that's Aiden's self-insert character, because like we kind of have a list of check marks that are similar, but it's like, Julian is the self-insert character. He inherited all of my terrible sense of humor.
I don't know if I could call it terrible.
Oh, thank you.
Either that or I also have a terrible sense of humor. It could go either way, I'll be
Listen,
honest.
we exist. We're valid.
But it's just so refreshing to see like a lighthearted fantasy because I feel
Yeah,
like so often like in modern day like young adult it has to be like about like a dark issue or the stakes have to be like so high. So it was like
yeah.
very refreshing to read something that had like high personal stakes without being like
End of
uh
the world, like
yeah, like super
yeah,
dark and serious. Like it was so
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of always my goal when I write books is like, yeah, we're gonna like go through some heavy stuff and cover some pretty intense topics, but like, it's funny because when I was little, I hated reading, and I wanted nothing to do with books, and it was because my mom and my Lita, they would always give me like problem novels, so they were always contemporary
Mm.
stories that were like a freaking bummer, and I was just like, I don't want to read this.
Yeah.
So yeah, but once I discovered like Howl's Moving Castle by Dana Wynne Jones, I was like, oh, I can have fantasy there. Like I can read a fantasy that's also very funny, and the the magic and like the humor makes, I think, those heavier topics more accessible, especially for
Mm.
younger readers to like engage with. Because like if you had handed me a book and you were like, hey, this is a book about a Mexican trans boy who's having a really hard time feeling accepted by his family and his community because he's trans, I'd be like, no thanks. That sounds like a freaking bummer. Uh, but if you had handed me that same book and been like, this is a book about a trans Mexican boy who's having a hard time with his family understanding him and his identity. There's also a cute ghost love interest and magic and like a funny best friend character. That would be, I would pick that up. It just makes it easier for us to kind of facilitate these hard conversations with young readers without like scaring them off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you want to be able to like approach like serious topics like that with kind of like that humor and levity you were talking about. Like you want it to, you don't want it to just be like depressing or make it seem like this
Yeah,
is all these characters can like have going for them in a story. You want to show that like they're just, they also have lives and humor and yeah.
yeah. It's like creating I like to call it, my books are always like, readers can always depend on my books to provide a soft landing. So I might take you through some rough times during the story, but at the end of it, I will give you a soft place to land.
Love that. Love that always. We
Yeah.
need that, especially we need that hope in these hard
Seriously,
times.
truly.
So, how did you transition from Cemetery Boys to the Sunbearer Trials?
Oh my god. Not well. It's funny because like when I had to like come up with like what I wanted to write next, uh in my head I was like, high fantasy, how hard could it be? It turns out it's super hard. It's so hard. And it takes so much time. And oh my god, it kicked my butt, Caitlin. I can't even tell you.
Oh,
I
what
actually
was like the biggest hurdle?
I think just like the world building, because especially with the Sunbearer Trials duology, because in both books I'm basically taking you on a road trip through this entire fantasy world that I've created. And what's one of the interesting things about Reino del Sol, which is the fantasy world, is that each city has a patron god, and so each city looks and functions in association with whoever that god is, if that makes sense. So, like Aurelio's home city of San Fuego is in dedication to the goddess of fire, and so fire is incorporated into how that city works. Like all of their lights are, instead of like electricity, they use fire. If you like went to like a farmer's market or something, you would see a bunch of charcoal artists with their easels out doing like charcoal art. So I decided to make it so nuanced and specific for each freaking city that it just took forever. Like
But
if it's not figuring out the research of like what would even a freaking fire city look like, and then it's like having to describe it to you and kind of lead you through it, but also without not bogging the reader down with too much exposition and description.
mm,
It was so hard. I ended up when I was writing Celestial Monsters, the sequel that's coming out in like 10 days. um I actually ended up needing to bump it back a year just to have time to work on it, because I was,
oh
oh
wow.
my god, it took forever. Yeah, it was a
Oh,
slow process. It was very
that's
hard,
so
but I'm very
cool.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so. Oh. I guess I should. Do you want to like describe what the Sunbearer Trials is
Oh
about?
yeah,
For sorry,
yeah, I
I
can do
sorry, I
that.
totally forgot about like. Oh yeah, I should probably introduce this book before we start talking about it.
Well, that was my bad. Yeah, so the Sunbearer Trials, it's high fantasy, and I like to call it Mexican Percy Jackson meets the Hunger Games with a touch of My Hero Academia, because I love the tournament arc. Is definitely like what this story is about. But so it is a secondary world fantasy in a place called Reino del Sol. And in this world, gods kind of walk among the humans, but they're in their fancy little, not little, but very big temples at each of their cities. And every 10 years, the Sunbearer Trials take place, which is a set of 5 trials that 10 demigods are chosen to compete in. In the land of Reino del Sol, you have 3 different kinds of gods. You have the golds, who are the really powerful, very famous creator gods, and their kids are like basically celebrities, and they are trained to become the heroes of Reino del Sol. And they go to a fancy academy where they're trained and learn how to become basically saviors. And then you have Jades, who are the lower level gods, who are the gods of the more mundane things. So, for example, our main character Teo, he's a trans boy, and he is the son of the goddess of birds. So he has very large quetzal wings. But Jades are kind of looked down on, and so Teo doesn't get to go to the fancy gold academy, and he's stuck going to public school, and he has to wear the same ugly lime green shorts as everyone else in his school. um, and so yes, so the Sunbearer trials are taking place this year, and 10 demigods are chosen. Like I said, usually it's only ever been golds, because like I said, those are the more powerful, more skilled demigods. And the winner is actually, let me go back. During the choosing ceremony, um, very unexpectedly, Teo, a jade, is chosen to compete in the trials, which happens very, very, very rarely. And usually, if there is a jade in the trials, they kind of end up in sticky situations. And then the second surprise is that a second jade is actually chosen to compete in the trials, and that demigod's name is Shio, and Shio is the god of bad luck. Now, in the trials, the winner of the who is ranked the top at the end of the trials becomes the sun bearer, and they get to bring light and life back to the cities, and they get to refuel the sun so that it stays in the sky. And there's some important reasons why we want to keep the sun, aside from the obvious of being like the world would collapse.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
The other
Makes sense. Makes
is
sense.
it's true. The other is that the sun is the only thing that is keeping the obsidian gods locked up in their what like locked away and banished in the stars. And the obsidians are 3 gods who originally started the war among the gods a very, very long time ago because they wanted to take over and use humans as slaves, whereas everyone else wanted to be in service to the gods, in service to the humans. But the Obsidians wanted the humans to be in service to the gods. So that's another reason why they need to keep the sun going. But that's what the winner gets to do. But unfortunately, the loser that comes in last place during the trials is the one who has to be sacrificed, and their body gets melted down to become the fuel that refuels the sun. So it's almost like Teo and Shio are chosen to be the losers. And so they have to work together along with their friend Mia, who is an outcast gold demigod, in order to survive the trials together.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Ah, I have not finished Sunbearer Trials yet because I have this thing with series where I try to wait until they're all out. So like I will buy the book
Oh,
when
I'm
it
the
first.
same way.
Yeah, it's just I'm so impatient, and if I get to a bad cliffhanger, like I will just die.
And I will say there's a very bad cliffhanger at the end of that first
No!
book.
How could you do this? How could you do this? See, this is why I wait until a whole series is finished. So
Yeah.
I did buy like the Sunbearer Trials when it came out, but I've kind of like been waiting until like Celestial Monsters was like closer before I started it. So I'm like very early in, but
Oh my god.
so
Very
excited.
excited.
I'm
Now's
so
the
excited. I
time.
know. And because I've been waiting, it feels like it's been so long since I last read one of your books. So it's been like,
Oh my
oh
gosh.
man, I miss
That's
this, I miss
true.
this. But yeah, so what was like your favorite part of writing the Sunbearer Trials? Like what really spoke to you in it?
Ooh. Gosh, probably. So another mistake that I made with this series is that I basically have 10 main characters because I have 10 teenagers who are competing in these trials, and I didn't realize how difficult that would be until like it was time to actually start writing. It's
Hmm.
it's a lot of people to keep track of, and I have 5 trials in which all 10 of them are like running around doing stuff. So it was really difficult but also really fun. I Whenever I start a new book, I commission my cover artist Mars Lauterbach to do character art, and so they did all of the art for the demigods, and that really helped me kind of visualize them as their own really distinct individual people, and it made it a lot easier for me to kind of refine what their distinct personalities were going to be like, which was really fun. And yeah, yeah, that was really, really fun, just like kind of coming up with the 10 demigods and like moving them through this world as really individual people. It's funny because when it was time to like start writing those action sequences during the trials, I was like, I can't keep track of anybody. And complaining about it to my friends, and one of my friends, Ezrael, they have a 3D printer, and they made these little tokens, one for each demigod, and it had like their parents' glyph on it. So I was literally able to like be at my desk and move these little tokens around so I could keep track of where everyone was, and it was
Oh,
like a
that's so
freaking
smart.
nightmare.
It's like a little
Yeah.
chessboard for your own battles. Oh, that's such a
Exactly.
good idea.
Yeah, it was really fun. It actually, yeah, because I was complaining a whole bunch and it was miserable work. And then once I had like little toys to play with, I was like, okay, actually, this is fun.
Now that
I
I've
can't count
decided I've stopped hating it, now I love it.
exactly.
Oh, that's so cool. Battle sequences are already so hard to write. I can't even imagine with like 10 characters.
Yeah, again, bit off a lot more than I could chew with this series.
Why did you decide to have like 10 contestants? Like, why so many?
Well, I, it just seemed like, a small number didn't really make sense. 5 didn't make sense if I wanted 2 jades. That just seemed like the ratio was off. So
Mm.
I was like, yeah, 10. That seems fine.
Nice
My
even number. Ah, and then it was too late, and then it was too late.
Yeah, then I just had to figure it out.
Isn't that just writing in general?
You're so right. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's
I
like
feel
most of the time it's me being like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm just
yes.
gonna see what happens.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's basically me anytime I write. Like it sounded like a good idea before I started, and then I started and I was like, "What? Why did
And
I
then all of a
choose this
sudden
again?"
it's 2 a.m. and you're chugging Red Bull and you're like, why did I do this to myself?
How have I ended up here?
Yeah.
Oh, so we've talked about like your current writing journey. How did you like get your start in writing? Like, have you always been interested in it? Because you said that you didn't like reading when you were younger. So
Oh yeah.
how did you kind of
I,
get your start in writing?
so yeah, hated reading until I was in like sixth grade. And then I started reading and then it like kind of took over my life. Like I was that kid that would sneak off to the library during lunch and would just live in the library and read.
Mm.
I'll also say I stole a great deal of books from my middle school and high school library. I should probably like pay them back or something. I don't know. I should reach out.
Why not? Why not?
Like, yeah, like my family couldn't afford to buy books. And I did
Mm.
like go to the library all the time. That was kind of my after school care. But for some reason, I really loved the library and the librarians. Meanwhile, I had like a more antagonistic relationship with school. So I was like, fine, I can steal from them. I don't care. um, so but I actually started writing by doing fan fiction, and
Yes.
specifically, I was deep into writing X-Men fan fiction and the Hunger Games. And from fan fiction, I went on to something even more dorky, which was online role playing, and
Yeah.
that I was doing online role playing all through college, all through grad school, and I basically didn't stop until I sold Lost in the Neverwoods because then I didn't have time to do online role playing because it truly was my entire life. So
That
it's funny
those were the
because
days though. It was so
yeah,
fun. And I
oh,
feel like
so much
it was more like not popular, but like it was easier to find like those
yeah,
spaces.
it totally was. Um, so yeah, that was it's funny because I had never written a book until I wrote Lost in the Neverwoods, and then that was the first book that got published. And every book I've written now has been for publication, so that's a weird little flex that I tend to keep to myself because it just sounds obnoxious. You know
No,
what I mean?
it sounds so cool. Also,
Yeah,
someone in chat said replace the books stolen with the books you published.
yes, there we oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's how obnoxious to do that.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, but, so it's funny because like a lot of people have like I wrote 3 books, I wrote 10 books before my first one got published, and it's like I still wrote that same amount, but it was all fan fiction and online role playing, so it's not technically wasn't like books, you know what I mean? But that's how I learned how to write 100%.
Yeah. I feel like because fan fiction is how I started writing also, and I feel like it's such like a good way to learn how to write because you can like use these already existing characters and like put them in different situations. So it's not as daunting as
Exactly.
like just starting from scratch. I feel like it's a good
Yeah,
learning opportunity.
it totally is. And it also just makes writing a lot more accessible when you like
Mm.
go to a young adult and you're like, hey, write characters that you're already in love with in worlds that you already really love. It really makes it it's a good way to get kids excited about writing for sure.
It is, and I love that, especially because like especially when you're first starting out and if you're a kid and if you are like
Yeah.
daunted by the prospect of like writing a whole thing, whether it's a short story or a novel, like writing something you enjoy is like the first and foremost thing you should be worried about.
It's
Like,
true. And like listen, Lost in the Neverwoods is fan fiction that I tricked someone into paying me to publish. Like
that's the best kind.
yeah, and that's like what all of like retellings are, right? Retellings are fan fiction. It's
Yeah.
a fan fiction is a a time honored tradition from the Bible to Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, you're not wrong.
we get inspired by other stories and other characters, and that's what makes us want to write our own. So it's like, yeah, it's all the same thing to me.
Oh, that's so fun. And I feel like that's such a like fun way of looking at writing because I feel like
Yeah,
kind of part of partly back to what we were talking about before. I feel like sometimes writing becomes like so serious that you can
Yeah.
kind of lose track of like why you love it in the first place. So it's like
Yes.
so fun to hear like this kind of like very fun, joyous like love for writing. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
that's as because I write full time now. It's like all I freaking do with my day. So like
So you
finding the
better like it.
joy, exactly, finding that joy and excitement and holding it is perhaps the most important part for me. So I'm always looking at that.
Yeah, because if you stop loving it, not only have you now made your career off of it, but like you don't want to hate the thing that you've always loved. Like that's just
Exactly.
sad.
100%.
Oh. And so after Celestial Monsters, like I know it's not quite out yet, but what's next for you after that? Like you mentioned your previous proposals.
Yeah. So I've got the Cemetery Boys sequel is what's next. Yeah, I'm
So
so
excited.
excited. I turned in the first draft in July, last month, I guess. Yeah, probably like yeah, so it's like it exists. It's going to be a book, and that one is told from Julian's point of view, which I'm really excited about because his brain is like so fun to be in. Um,
Aw.
I'm really excited for that, and then apparently, so that will be fall of 2025, and then in like winter, so probably like February, I'll have my contemporary romance coming out, which I'm really excited about. And then in fall 26 will be Gay Titanic in Space.
Oh, man, you really keep yourself busy. That's a lot
Yeah.
back to
Well,
back.
here's the thing is that I've sold, except for Lost in the Neverwoods, all of my books I've sold on proposal. And while I was working on I think it was right after Cemetery Boys came out and like it did well and I was like, "Oh, thank God." And my publisher kept being like, "Hey, we want to buy more books," and I was like, "Well, okay then." And what I did was I messaged my editor Holly, who I'm still with and who I love.
Yay! I'm so glad to
Yeah,
hear that.
and I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, I would love to just keep writing books for you, as many as you want, um, but if I'm going to quit my job and like write full time, I want you to book me out for the next 5 years." And that was in 2020. And now I'm booked out through 2026. So I was very purposeful. I was like, hey, like, here's a dangling carrot. I'll do whatever you want. But like, I want to make sure that I am like supported and cared for the next five
Yeah.
years at my job. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because
I
if
kind
you're
of,
gonna quit your job, like you have to make sure you have that support that you can
exactly.
like live off. Because writing is not an easy career
No,
to live off full
no.
time. So you got to have
It's
that guarantee.
it's the worst and it's completely unpredictable because you get royalties
Mm.
every 6 months and you have no idea how much the royalties are going to be until you get them, so you cannot rely on them at all. And
Mm.
then for advances, which has just gotten worse and worse since we joined the publishing world, uh
Yeah.
they pay advances out now over 4 payments, so that can be.
What?
Yeah, so that's like 2 years at least. What they do now is you get 1 on signing, you get 1 after you turn in your first draft, you get your 3rd payment when it goes to copy edits, and then you don't get your 4th payment until the book publishes.
That is
And that is
insane.
it's not sustainable for anyone, especially
No.
for, most authors, can't afford to be, working as an author full time because it doesn't pay enough. And it
Mm.
especially doesn't pay enough when they split up those payments. Because, like, even if you're so lucky to get like a 100K advance split over 2 years of you working on it, that's only 50K a year, you know?
Yeah.
And
Not
that's
to mention,
before taxes.
yeah, and not to mention any amount of time you put in before that. Like, if it's your first book
Yes,
that you've sold, like you've been working on it for like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years already.
exactly. So
Oh my
it's a
gosh.
mess of an industry, I gotta tell you.
Man, I knew it was bad, but because I have not been, like I'm back to the querying stage, so I've been like
Yeah.
stuck there for a while. I hadn't realized things had gotten like that bad.
Yeah, it's a just a disaster, truly.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Mm.
But I still like books, not to like bum everybody out. Like,
Well,
all of
I'm
this sucks. Like,
yeah, it is like not a good creative career to try to go into and hope for any kind of financial like
yeah,
repayment. But
yeah.
oh,
It's truly so few and far between where you find an author that can actually like sustain themselves on book stuff. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad you have found a way, even if only for now. And I hope keep things keep going well, so you can keep writing full time.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Hopefully, Holly works with you on that.
Yes, she's been great.
Oh,
I
good, good,
it's
good.
so funny because my agent will be like, if we like went on submission with one of your books, we could make a lot more money. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like, I am safe and protected in my little like Macmillan like bubble, and I don't want to go anywhere else.
And sometimes it really is about that stability rather than like
Yeah,
making more. Cause like, especially if you have an editor who's willing to like work with you like long
yeah,
term like that is so much more invaluable.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, well, do you have any advice for any aspiring writers?
Yeah, I think, gosh, I the like unhelpful advice is to finish your first draft because like that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Um, but the more helpful advice for how to actually get that first draft written, I use the 15-point beat sheet one by Jessica Brody whenever I plot out a book. And I super recommend that for writers, especially ones who are newer to writing and you're like, how does the plot even work? Like, that's such a good question, and one that I didn't really understand until I read this book. But yeah, so it's called Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and it goes over the 15-point beat sheet. And what that is, it's basically like 15 bullet points that are in traditional Western storytelling, all of the plot points that any story should like hit. And that's regardless of genre or age range either. And what's really helpful is like if you can go through and like fill out each of those 15 plot points, then you have a book. You have a whole entire plot, and that's what tells me that like, okay, this crazy like premise story idea that I have is actually book shaped, and I could actually write it now. So I super, yeah, I can't tell you how invaluable that book has been for me. She also has that beat sheet for free on her website. Her name again is Jessica Brody, so you don't even have to buy the book to figure out how to learn how to do 15-point beats. And yeah, she's incredible, just so knowledgeable, and she's fantastic.
I love that. And what good practical advice for learning how to plot? Because that was one of the biggest things I struggled with, like when I first started writing out. Like once I
It's
moved,
so
it's so
hard.
hard. It's like, how do I make things happen?
Yeah, it's like
It's, yeah. So check out Jessica Brody's beat sheet. As a
yeah.
reminder, anyone is welcome to ask questions. So if you have any questions you would like to ask Aiden, feel free. But yeah, so what exactly are your plans for promoting Celestial Monsters? You mentioned a tour. What are your tour stops?
Let's see. Let's see if I can remember all of them off the top of my head. I live in Portland, Oregon. So my first, like on release day, I'll have an event at Powell's, which is really cool and exciting. Then I'm going up to Seattle. And you know what? What if I just pull up my tour because now I'm worried that I'm gonna forget and say something wrong. And then
Oh.
people will be like, Aiden, what are you even talking about? Okay. So okay, yes. So Powell's in Portland. And then on Wednesday I will be in Seattle, Washington. Thursday I'll be in Los Gatos, California, which is actually near where I grew up, so that's pretty exciting. Friday I will be in Naperville, Illinois. Um, Saturday I'll be in Louisville, Kentucky, and I've never been in Kentucky, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh,
Uh,
neat.
Right? Sunday, I will be in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And to close things out on that Monday, I will be in Decatur, Georgia, which I actually was one of my stops for the Sunbearer trials. And it was so much fun. I'm so excited to go back.
Oh, that's so exciting. If you ever
Yeah,
if you ever have a tour stop in Orlando, Florida, let me know.
I know. I I've been invited to a couple of book festivals in Orlando, but I realized that they weren't prepared to have a trans author. I was like, you guys need to
Oh,
put some more policies in place before I come down. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think about you every time Florida comes up. So the
Aw,
next time I'm out there, I will definitely hit you up and maybe we can hang out for sure.
please do, but definitely like feel free to take your time. Florida is not uh, a friendly place to be in right now if you are
Yeah,
not a
it's
white
rough.
man. So
Unfortunately, a lot of
complete,
Americans are like that right now.
completely understandable. I understand. Okay, so we do have some questions in chat.
All
So
right.
what kind of impact do you hope to have on your readers when they read your work?
I think, God, I think with my stories, it's like I really just want marginalized kids, so be that they're, brown, BIPOC, if they're trans, if they're queer, to kind of just see characters like themselves being really powerful and having agency, but also being kind of loved and cherished for exactly who they are. For me, that kind of sense of connection with my characters has always been like the most important thing that I want readers to be able to like have after they've read my stories, definitely.
Aw, I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Someone else asked, are the books also in audio?
Oh my gosh, they are. Yeah, all of my books are available in audiobook. And my audiobook narrators are freaking incredible. Avi Roque did Cemetery Boys and Lost in the Neverwoods, and you guys might recognize their voice because Avi was in Owl House. Oh my god! Wait, let me.
Oh,
Owl House Avi. Hold on, I'm just looking up what the character's name was. Rain Whispers. Avi is Rain Whispers.
that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and oh my god, they're so talented. And
Oh, yeah.
then for the Sunbearer Trials, I have Andre. It's funny because when it was time for the Sunbearer Trials audiobooks, my publisher emailed me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to use Avi again?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we've used them for 2 books now, and they're incredible. But why don't you just send me some auditions just so I can see what's out there?" And so I was listening to auditions, and I listened to Andre's audition, and it was like the kind of the opening of the book. And here's the thing: Avi is Yadriel because Yadriel is he is soft spoken. He's kind of internal. He's anxious and kind of shy. And when Avi narrates a book, it's like they are, kind of whispering a bedtime story into your ear. But then in the Sunbearer Trials, you have Teo, who is this obnoxious troublemaker who's like a real pain in the ass, a real stinker. And it was so funny when I heard Andre read, and they just had the perfect attitude for who Teo is. I was like, oh, we need Andre for this book
Oh,
100%.
that's so
Yeah.
perfect.
So they're both incredibly talented. It's really, really cool. I love the audiobooks. They're really, really good.
Can attest, they are excellent. You should
Yeah.
give them a listen. So someone asked, have you ever considered writing nonfiction?
Probably not. Like I just think I have a hard time reading nonfiction, and I don't know if I'd be very good at writing it. So it'd have to be something that I was like very nichely super into in order to write nonfiction, I think.
That makes sense. I feel like it's such a different genre, and
Yeah.
personally, I don't find myself interesting enough to write an entire book about.
That
So,
too. Like I don't even know what I would write about. Certainly not a memoir. Like I stay in my
yeah,
office all day, every day, writing books. I can't do stuff.
yeah. um, Oh, and they also followed up to ask, do you have any adult fiction story ideas rattling around in your head?
Um, so I always laugh when I get this question. The reason why I think I'm good at writing young adult, especially, trans stories, is because I have been a trans young adult and I have gone through problems and come out on the other side. So I know what the problems are and I know solutions to those problems. Adults, like I'm barely a functioning adult, and like I don't know, like I haven't solved my adult problems, so I don't know if I'd be able to like write a book where like
I feel this.
where
I
there's
feel
like
this deep.
character growth and stuff. Because it's like, what have I learned as an adult? I don't think very much. Like I don't know if there's many lessons I could like help teach people. But middle grade, I think could be fun, and I've been kind of toying with that idea a little bit.
Middle grade just seems so fun, but so
I know.
hard.
Well, see, the problem with middle grade is that I can't shut up enough. Like my books are so long. Like
Yeah. I
I
feel like
have
I
to get
need
really better.
yeah. I'm with you there cuz I like having too many things happen. Uh
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And I
me
also
too.
feel like I'm not funny enough for middle grade cuz I feel like consistently middle grade books are so funny. Like they're just so
Yeah,
like good and like they're so
yeah.
good at being engaging and hilarious and I don't know that I'm either of these things.
You definitely are. That's ridiculous. As someone who has read your books, like, please.
No. Thank you. You are very kind, but I'm gonna hit X on that one. Someone asked, how do you stay motivated while writing, and how do you avoid things like writer's block?
Oh my god. Great question. Still working on that, frankly. For me, usually the getting myself motivated, what I'll do is like I'll usually use a scene that I'm excited to write as a dangling carrot. So I'll be like, okay, and you have to get through this exposition that you super don't want to do. But at the end of it, you'll be able to have this really cute scene, or you'll be able to drop this really ridiculous joke, something like that. Also, sharing my writing with my friends, like as I'm drafting, helps just to like have cheerleaders. um, that's a big one too. Yeah.
That's nice. It's always nice when you remember that there are other people like reading and
Yeah,
enjoying your work, and it's not just you in a hole just writing away in the dark.
exactly. Because it's like that's what it is when you're an author. It's very
Yeah.
isolating, and sometimes, I mean, maybe often you get stuck in your own head and feel kind of alone. So being able to like reach out to friends, especially other author friends who can kind of commiserate and like cheer me on, is just so important.
That's so good. I'm so glad you have that supportive uh,
Yeah.
reader friend group. Oh,
Yeah.
good, good. Yeah, writer's block is such a tricky thing. It's just.
Yeah, writer's block, that one usually it's one of three things.
Mm,
First, it's a plot problem, like I'm literally stuck in a corner, and then what I have to do is go back to my outline and like figure out what went wrong and fix it.
mm,
The second one is that I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out, and usually that means I need to put it aside for a bit to just like relax and recover, and usually like get my sleep back in order, because if you're not sleeping well, you're not going to be able to do anything.
yeah.
um yeah, and then what's the third, Aiden? Jeez. Usually that I'm just like run out of inspiration, I'm feeling uninspired,
Mm,
and in order to fix that, very often what I'll do is go back to whatever source material inspired the idea. So like for Cemetery Boys, it would be like, rewatching Casper or something. And for the Sunbearer Trials, it would be like watching the Hunger Games or rereading Percy Jackson or like watching My Hero Academia. Going back to what made me excited about the story to begin with usually helps me get motivated again.
yeah. Yeah, because I feel like that's. I feel like sometimes people like misdiagnose what is causing their writer's block, and just being able to
Totally.
identify like what is causing it. Like,
Yeah.
why do I feel like I either don't want to write or I can't like figure out what
Yeah.
to do next? I feel like
Yeah.
being able to figure out what's causing it is such an important step to being able to like move past it.
Yeah, it really is. And it's always one of those three things. So
Yeah.
whenever I'm like really, it's like turning into pulling teeth, I'm like, all right, what's the issue here exactly? I kind of
Yeah.
diagnose and go from there.
Oh, that is some really great advice. Oh, all
Yeah.
right. Well, if no one else has any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. I know you are very busy and you have a tour to get ready for. Thank you
Ugh.
so Thank you so much for sharing your time and experience with us today. Oh, this was so much fun. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
absolutely. This was super fun. Thank you so much for having me. And it was so nice to just be able to talk to you again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm like really bad at like keeping in touch like just online.
We all are. It's
It's
not you.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard,
Yeah,
man.
we're all struggling.
You can say that again. But yeah, and if you are ever in Florida, absolutely let me know. And if you need a
Yeah,
place to stay, I have a guest room, all yours.
that sounds wonderful. I will definitely hit you up.
Yes. All right. Well, good luck with everything, and I hope you manage to take breaks during the
Yeah.
next busy couple of weeks for you.
Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, and
Bye, y'all.
have a
You
good
too.
afternoon.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was so fun. Oh my gosh, I love Aiden. As a reminder, so I do have the link to all of their books and their website actually pinned in chat, so you can check it out. Uh, all of the books we discussed today, except for Celestial Monsters, are currently available. Celestial Monsters is available September 3rd on Tuesday, so 10 days. So be sure to check them out. Oh, and Aiden is actually running a pre-order for campaign for Celestial Monsters. So if you go over to their Twitter page, I believe they're Aiden Schmaden over on Twitter. Um, you can find the link to their pre-order campaign for Celestial Monsters. Some very cute things on there. Oh, that was so fun. Oh, talking with Aiden is just always such a great time. They're just such a good human. All right. And that is going to be it for our segment of Talk Story to Me today. Thank you guys so much.